Hey, what's up everybody? My name's PersNikity and welcome back to For Honor. This is my walkthrough on realistic difficulty, and in this video we're going to be moving on to chapter 1.3 The Blackstone Legion. So for those of you new to the game or new to this walkthrough, the game is separated into 3 chapters: Knights, Vikings, and Samurai. This is the first chapter of the Knights, and each chapter, or at least this chapter, has 6 levels, and this is the third one, the Blackstone Legion. So here you go. Here's a little story to explain what's going on.
We had the Vikings on the run. And in the mopping up efforts, we also claimed the rest of the scattered legions, bringing them under Blackstone rule. The Warden, I think, had reservations about some of our methods.
Alright, and as usual, before the level starts, you can pick your abilities. I'm going to go with the same ones I've been going with. I'll explain more about them throughout the gameplay.
I had questions about the Blackstone Legion.
The last of the Vikings have holed up in an outpost up ahead. One that the Iron Legion deserted. Need backup?
I can handle it.
Careful with that ego.
Ready?
Lead the way.
Deserters? I wanted to see for myself. Stone was Iron Legion. I trusted him.
So once you gain control, you're basically just going to follow the path. This game is pretty linear. You'd have to do a lot to get lost. I don't even think you can get lost. From my experience so far, there's always just one simple path to follow. And it's pretty much the same layout throughout. So you're going to go down the path. Eventually you'll come across a group of enemies, maybe 1 enemy, maybe in this case 4 enemies, and then you're going to keep going. And the crazy thing about this game is that it's very repetitive. This is pretty much all you do. You go down paths, you find enemies, and you kill them. But because of how advanced I think the fighting mechanics are, the game always stays entertaining. And I think that you'll always have fun playing it no matter how repetitive it gets. And I haven't played the multiplayer yet, but I'm really looking forward to that. It seems like a game that I could really get into.
Out of Asheville! Doesn't look too hard.
Everywhere we go, we've abandoned our people. What has happened to the Iron Legion? Wait here. I'll clear the bridge.
Alright, so again, you'll gain control of the character, and this is where I'm going to talk about a few really useful, abilities you can do. So the first one is throwing enemies. So what you do is you press X or square depending on your system, you jam them, and then you press it again, and when you press it the second time, you aim your joystick in any direction and you'll actually throw that enemy in that direction. And so you see that when you're on like a bridge like this or something similar like a cliffside, you can actually throw your enemy off the end and completely save yourself a fight. So that's a really easy way to kill people in this game, and there's going to be an even better way to do it coming up in just a few seconds that I'll get into. But the most important thing when you're playing on realistic mode, and I'll probably mention this in every video, but if you see in the lower left hand corner of my screen, I have 2 abilities equipped right now. On the left I have my health, and on the right I have the broken shield. What those do is the one on the left, that gives me a large amount of health every time the ability regenerates and I choose to use it. And then on the right, the broken shield means that my attacks can go unblocked for 30 seconds. And that's a really useful ability to use on bosses, bigger enemies, or the faster enemies that wield 2 weapons at a time. And the reason I was able to play with those, and this is what I highly recommend you to do, if you play on regular first or on normal difficulty, you'll rack up a ton of experience, which will unlock all of these abilities for you, and then you can go back and play on realistic mode. And keep in mind, you don't have to play the whole game on normal. Just like, for example, what I'm doing is I'm playing the whole chapter on normal, and then I'm going through and playing the whole chapter again on realistic. And I think that's a really easy way to get through the game on realistic mode, because then you'll already have a ton of experience, which means you'll have a lot of good upgrades. Now you'll see right there, I actually took out those two enemies really quickly, and that's because if you notice around your environment, there's all these metal spikes on the walls, and you can use those to kill your enemies. So in the same way that you threw your enemy off a bridge, what you're going to do is press X or square to ram your enemy, press it again, and this time aim the joystick towards those metal spikes, and your character will grab him and throw him in those spikes for an instant kill. And that's really helpful in this area, because in this part of the game, you are fighting, I think it's, I didn't count, but I think it's like 5 or 6 big guys and then the boss, a little mini boss at the end. And so you see just how useful this strategy can be. Again, I tried it here, but I missed, so you got to make sure that you are both close enough and at the right angle to ram them into the spikes. And again, you don't have to use the spikes. You can go at this like a regular fight. The X or square button is your best friend in this game, because what it will do, aside from allowing you to throw enemies, one thing you can do is if you press it once, you'll ram the enemy in the chest, you'll stun them momentarily, and then while they're stunned, you can get in like 2 free heavy attacks. And on the non-bosses, those heavy attacks do a lot of damage. So basically, that ramming button, if it's on Xbox, it's X. If it's on PlayStation, it's square. That is the best button. That's the best command in the game. It's a really strong attack. It allows you to throw enemies. It allows you to stun enemies. It's just incredibly useful. And so now you're going to have to fight the commander up here, and this is what I like to save my broken shield ability for, because now the commander, you can see he's much bigger, he has a bigger shield, but with this ability he is unable to block my attacks for 30 seconds. So when you do this, the game loses a lot of its strategy, and it kind of becomes just like a button masher. You just keep pressing your heavy attack button, and you see there I took out the commander in like 20 seconds with that ability. And the cool thing about this game is those abilities do respawn. So I don't know the time limit. I'd say somewhere around 30 seconds to a minute, but those abilities will respawn all the time. And so if you really wanted to, you could just hang back and let it respawn every time, like for every enemy if you were in a desperate situation. But as you make your way down the path here, you're going to get attacked by this soldier, and she's wielding 2 daggers. And this is an enemy you'll come across a lot in the game, either with 2 daggers or 2 axes or 2 something. And these enemies are a lot harder to kill because they're a lot faster, and their movements are a lot harder to what's the word I'm looking for? To predict. Usually in the combat, what you have to do. So what makes realistic mode is that you don't get any indicators telling you which direction to block in. Instead, you just have to look at the enemy's movements and tell for yourself. And so it's really hard on realistic because you don't have any of those indicators, and for those fast enemies that move really quickly and their attacks become much harder to predict. And so usually what I like to do is also use my broken shield ability on them as well, but you see in that case it didn't respawn quick enough, so I just had to take them out the old-fashioned way. This part can get a little tricky. There's like 5 enemies, so what I kind of recommend you to do is kind of stay back towards the direction you came. The cool thing about this game is, in my opinion, the enemies are really smart. So the enemies don't all just attack you at once, because that would make for a chaotic and hectic fight where everyone would be hitting their own teammates and things like that. Instead, this game takes kind of a realistic approach where you see here, one enemy is focused on me, the other one is focused on my buddy, and then if I kill the enemy that's focused on me, then I can, team up with my buddy and take out this guy. So use that to your advantage. Use the fact that the enemies won't all attack you at once. Kind of put put some distance in between you and the group of enemies, so that you only have to focus on 1 or 2 at a time. And that will really help you get through these fights where there's like 5 or 6 guys at once.
They were members of the Iron Legion. All legions share the same oaths. what had happened here. Why have you abandoned your posts?
A Blackstone dog has strayed from his pack.
Stand down! Your people need you.
What's a Warden doing fighting for Apollyon?
One of us should go home and change.
Why have you abandoned your posts?
Kill them.
We were going to have...
Alright, so now we get into the last part of the level, which is this boss fight, where we're basically in this little circular arena. We got a ton of regular soldiers, or not regular, but the standard soldiers on the outer ring, and then we have the big boss in the middle. So what you're going to want to do is focus all your efforts on taking out the smaller guys first. The good news is you still have your friend here. He'll draw the attacks of the boss, hopefully, if not most of the smaller guys. So what you're going to want to do is just kind of stay on the outskirts of the battlefield, make your way around a circle, and take out all of the smaller guys first. And if you picked it up, you can use the up ability, which is this like health banner. And if you place that, it will give you and your teammate health as long as you stay in that region. And so that's a good way to continuously regenerate your health instead of using your limited time health ability. But again, just keep fighting the soldiers. Focus all your attention on the little ones. Have your buddy there focus on the boss. Once you're done taking out the little ones, then you're going to want to use your shield breaking ability and then just go start slashing at the boss. And again, this ability is just gold because he won't be able to block your attacks and you'll be able to get through this pretty quickly. So thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe if you get the chance, and I'll see you in future videos. Stay tuned for a really awesome cutscene introducing the Night Warlord.
That was the day I finally met our warlord.
Apollyon.
Gotcha, Blackstone. Do you know what kind of creature waits for its own slaughter? Sheep. Sheep.
No.
Welcome to the Blackstone Legion.
I had my answers, but too late. And the Warden's oaths are not lightly broken.